Hi everyone, happy Friday. Welcome back to the Close Friends List podcast. We are honestly just going to get right into it today. I have one of my close friends, Haley, on, and honestly, we don't shut up. That's why we've got to get right into it, or else this is going to be a way too long of an episode. I'm really excited for the mix-up today, though, because Haley and I go into deep conversation today, which normally you guys probably won't be used to because, you know, when it's just me, it's hard for me to go deep. But we talk about our experience with church, mental health, and with the LGBTQ community. So I'm really excited for you guys to listen in on our conversation together. Before we get started, just wanted to offer a trigger warning that Haley and I do talk about suicide in this episode. So excited for you guys to hear our conversation, and here we are, Haley and I. Okay, you ready to get this started?
Dear Lord, baby Jesus.
Don't pray. Let's start this off with a prayer.
Hey guys, can you guys be quiet? We're gonna pray really fast before service.
Oh, yeah, close your eyes.
Hold each other's hands.
Yeah.
We're gonna start singing Kumbaya in 3, 2, 1.
The countdown on the screen.
Literally.
Welcome, Haley.
Hey Maddie, how are you?
I'm so good now that you're here. Yes, quite often, every Friday.
AKA your bed.
Yes. We're literally recording from my bedroom. Yeah. You know, I normally record in my closet.
Oh really?
Yeah, like I had to empty out all my shoes.
Your prayer closet or?
Yeah, basically. It's basically like my podcasting closet. I like have dresses hanging on my head the whole time I record, and like literally no one knows until now. Wow, I'm exposing myself in this moment. But thank you for coming on. You were on my close friends list a couple of weeks ago, and I just love all of our conversations that I was like, I have to have Haley on, and I have to have her on multiple times, or else this is going to be the longest episode ever.
Never gonna be a one and done.
Yeah,
You're
never.
always gonna want to come back.
Never. I'm even probably gonna have to cut this.
3 hours. We were already on the patio for 2 hours before this,
Yes.
so here we are.
And here we are, ready for even more conversation. Okay, Haley, how about you tell the listeners about like who you are? We could talk about how we met, but first dive into how would you describe yourself? How did you get here?
Here in this room or so my name is Haley Victoria Cross.
Wow, I haven't even given all these people my full name.
Oops, never mind, erase this, cut this out, I'm gonna be murdered. I was born in Virginia and left that place very quickly. My parents were in the military. They moved to Texas, and I grew up in the South, which, if you know anything about the South, it's not a very fun place to be.
Wait, did you have a Southern accent when you moved here?
Hell no.
Hell no.
No, I actually, when I moved here, hell no. When I moved here, they were like, you don't sound like you're from Texas. And I was like, good. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm from Texas. But what's odd is my 15-year-old sister, she literally has like a very strong country accent. Wow. And she's convinced she does it. And I'm like, no, every time I come here, you talk and it bothers me. So, yeah, Texas accent. So from Texas, then I graduated high school. I moved to Seattle to do the same exact internship that you did as well, aka Church Home College, aka Leadership Experience, aka the Cult of John Smith. Like, I don't know. We love him. But yeah, so I moved here to do that, and then I was here for like 3 years, enjoying that whole world in and of itself, and then decided I needed to go. So then I moved to Chicago, and I went to school for a little bit for writing. I've always loved writing.
Wait, wasn't it comedic writing too?
I wanna do like TV writing, you know, script writing and all those things, but more in the comedy realm. So always loved like Saturday Night Live. I was like 7. I was like 7, and it would still come on at like 11 o'clock at night, and I would just stay up at like until 11 o'clock as a 7-year-old and be like, when is SNL gonna come on? Even though I didn't like get any of the jokes, but people would laugh, and I'm like, this is funny. People love this. So that kind of was a beautiful thing that always has stuck with me, and so I wanted to do that. It was fun for a time, but I decided that that's not what I wanted anymore, and that's okay. You don't have to make a decision and that be the decision forever. So I kind of reevaluated after living in all the places I've lived, do I like Texas? What do I want? Do I want to live in a city? And just realized that Seattle pretty much had everything I wanted. So I moved back, and life has been a little bit different since then, since I was here in the beginning back in 2015. Totally.
I mean, you moved back and it was like a new city for you.
Complete, like I had to start over essentially.
And we both like relate on that a lot. Like staying in like physically in the same place, but like moving on with life.
Because when you're in a certain bubble, aka our church world bubble, that's all you know, and that's all the people you know, and that's all the people you need to know. Like, you have no other obligations because these are your people.
You and I are super similar in that, because some people, they live in Seattle and then they get into church home and then it becomes, but they have people outside of the world. But like for me, I grew up in it. That's all I've known since day one. And then
I straight up moved here, and that was day one for me. So
that's how Haley and I met. We met at church home college.
Full circle. That's how we got in the bedroom.
That's how we made it to the bedroom. That sounds more dirty than it actually is. I'm dead. Yeah, so basically all I remember from you is we weren't really in the same circle, like never really saw each other.
So I never really made an effort to interact.
Totally. And neither did I on my end too. Honest. I think one of us reached out to each other. I honestly think it was me, because
are you sure?
Because I honestly remember like hearing things about like you leaving and stuff.
Ooh, scandal.
No, I'm serious. Yeah, I like is shitty of people to talk about that stuff. Whatever. But I mean, people did the same thing with me. But I remember hearing like about you leaving and all this stuff, and I remember feeling like, I wonder if I should like connect with her, because
connect. That's such a true.
I know. That's so cringe. Connect. We should link up. I'll say that. But no, seriously, like I felt that way because I was like, I'm in a place where I'm questioning everything. I kind of want to leave. And this is someone that's already left. Like, I don't know though, because I didn't want to be like, I didn't want to reach out to you and be like, oh, I'm just trying to get the tea from Haley. You know, that's not.
I probably wouldn't have trusted you either. I'd been like, who is this?
Totally. You would have been like a pastor's kid, really? Like declining that request.
Yeah, no, do not talk to me.
So I didn't reach out to you then, but I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, wait. Like, I wonder if her and I would ever be connected. And here we are, like, how many years later?
I don't know.
I mean,
too many to count, right?
Here we are.
So I knew you as like a pastor's daughter who was pretty much her whole life was church, and then she was going to go into an internship / leadership program, and that's all I knew about you. And then when I left, obviously I started seeing you kind of transition more, and I was like, wait, she's kind of cool now. Like, I kind of,
because I definitely wasn't
like,
back
waiting
then.
on the other side, like, come to the dark side, Maddie. Like, just waiting for you to fully move on, I guess. I don't know, but that sounds awful.
No,
that's how we reconnected. So here we are in the bedroom.
Yes. And I'm so like grateful for that. Like, you have been so helpful to me. I don't think I've ever like expressed that, but like I mean it. That's so crazy. No, like I mean it. Even just like the past few days, like hanging out with you, and like I've come to so many realizations. Like literally on my last podcast, I was like, I don't really know like where I'm at with everything, and I don't know how I feel about things. And I feel like just talking with you over the past couple of days has like put me in a better place.
You're like, oh wait,
I can talk about it now. I do know how I feel.
I do know how I feel. I fully processed that.
But no, I think like what I love about this podcast and what I always want it to be is like people sharing their stories and their life experiences, because I think the best thing you can do is share those things, because when you do, it helps other people feel less alone.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, when I heard you were doing this, I was like, yes, finally. And it not only was it like, yes, finally, but I was like, yes, I have the inside scoop. I have my hook in this girl. So I know I can like weasel my way into this to just like fully expose everything and feed the world my opinions. So I was ready to finesse my way into this thing regardless.
I'm so glad you did. And I wanted you to finesse your way into Let's talk about like church and like transitioning out of that.
Yeah, so I did a year, my first year, and then at the end of my first year, summer in between my second year, I got hired on and we did like a mobile kind of church campus thing and did that for a year, and I just saw things that for me realized weren't aligned with my values, I guess, and what I believed and what I morally believed and thought, about life, and realizing that it's hard. It's not impossible, but it's hard to work with someone where you're like, oh, we should be chasing this vision, and instead we're going the complete opposite route is what we're literally told we should be going. So just kind of realizing that and getting fed up and finding my own freedom too, because I think if you would have had me in that position 2 years back, I would have felt like I had to be quiet and stay and put a smile on my face. And that, I guess, played a part in my transition out of the church, because I was like, I need to stand up for what I believe. I need to like speak for myself and kind of just find my own power. And so that honestly ushered in my transition out. And then when I left, I felt so empty. I was like, this is all I've ever wanted, to be involved in ministry and people. That's what it was. At the end of the day, it wasn't Christianity. It wasn't Jesus. It wasn't religion. It was people. I loved people. And so taking away the element of helping and pastoring people, I was like, what else am I going to do? Like, what is my purpose in this life? And I got extremely depressed. I obviously had left, so I felt super alone. I took myself away from community, I guess you could say. So I really had no one. And then that obviously ushered in more like self-discovery of like, what do I believe? What do I stand for? And it gave me a moment to kind of go into hermit mode and like self-evaluate and sift through things that kind of wrecked me in the previous season. And so having that, and then obviously getting to move to Chicago just really opened up some doors for me. And I felt like my life had gone from one extreme to the literal other. Like it was completely opposite 180. Like I would like sit there and wake up some mornings in Chicago and be like, what the hell am I doing? Like I was literally in the church like 2 years ago, and now I'm doing other things. Something completely opposite than what I'd ever expected. So all of that to say, just experiences and moving on and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And still when I left ministry, I was like, I want to be with people no matter what job I do. Like, I just want to be with people. I want to encourage people. I love cheering people on. I love being the hype man, and that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I just don't know, like, it doesn't have to look like one certain place or vocation kind of thing. So, I don't even know if that answered the question.
No, that's great. I relate to that so much. Like the same thing of like, just kind of having your world like taken away from you, basically. And like that's your whole community.
You take it away yourself, but you're like, I feel like this is being ripped away, and I don't want to leave, but I'm hurt and I can't stand here anymore. Especially leaving too, and you just saying like, I heard how you left, or I heard about you leaving. It's like, wow, we really don't look out for each other, or we really don't respect each other, or want to protect each other, or we only protect each other if we know that person's a part of the pack. But as soon as they step outside the pack and start asking the questions why, and questioning and challenging things, that's when we get uncomfortable and we don't want them here anymore, because they're going to start maybe even enlightening and shedding some, truth and light.
And that's all we're doing here. We are just shedding
like an onion, layers. I remember there was a girl that I did interns with, and I didn't like her when I first met her, and I told her more recently why I didn't like her, and I said, I didn't like you because you always asked why. Like in all of our classes, you always questioned things, you always asked why, and you challenged kind of the statements that were made. I said it bothered me because I was like, why are you trying to challenge something that's true?
Like, why are you questioning what they're telling us?
Exactly. And finally, once I transitioned out, I followed back up and we became best friends. And I was like, the thing I hated most about you is the thing I love most about you now, because you helped me like really go, wait, why do I believe this? Why? Because someone told me, or a sentence in this book told me that this is why I believe it, with no contextual like evidence or anything. Like this is just facts and you have to take it quite literally, and that's that. And instead of going, well, wait, why? Or wait, let's go back to the origin. Or wait, let's do some investigating and let's start questioning. Even if we come back to the same like answer, that's great, but let's at least try to question it, you know?
Or even put it up against other parts of the whole picture. Like, wait, if there's unconditional love, then why do like a certain amount of people get into an afterlife and a certain amount don't? Like there, you know, like
and we talked about this the other day. Men wrote the Bible.
People with penises. Like literally.
And so to take that into consideration even more so.
Yeah. And even to think that in my past, I didn't think that God was a woman.
Oh, honey. Miss Ariana like changed my world.
No, when she's saying, I was like, wait a damn minute.
I decided to question. I was able to step outside and say, wait, why do I believe he's a guy?
And why do people say he, him, like male pronouns?
Oh my God. What a great segue. What a great segue. So living in the South, like I said, there's one or the other. Like, and whatever you are, that's whatever you come into the world as. That's what they make you and tell you to be. And really learning how to respect and go, oh, wow, we really didn't, if we can be honest, we didn't address those things. Like that was never talked about. Yeah, I was just like, oh my God. And like learning how to respect and then becoming so empathetic and like listening to people and really hearing and being forced to actually fight for people. Like I had a project one time and they assigned, it was groups of people, they assigned each of us like a protest that we had to create. And my group got assigned a protest for trans rights and I knew nothing. I had just been introduced to pronouns. I didn't know how to use they, them in a sentence. Like it was very foreign to me, but I was obviously a studious student and wanted to get an A. So I did the research and I taught myself to sit and actually understand these people where in the South and especially the church, trans lives are a no-no. And
just don't even like address it. Don't even learn about it.
Turn your head, look away. Let's avoid it at all costs kind of thing. So learning about that and then having to literally write a paper and create a protest to fight for something that I never actually understood. And now I do understand, or I try to at least. That's, I guess, what I should say, try to. It just changed things for me. And I was like, whoa, the church really does love conditionally. Like I realized that once I got outside.
And I wish that more people who consider themselves Christians or church people that we are friends with or whatever would realize that and open up their world. Like I think one of the best things that happened to me when I left church was that my world was opened up to new people.
Also, Jesus was a Jew. He wasn't a Christian. Can I just put that out there? And he was like...
Not white.
That too. Not white. I remember an intern's, one of my most favorite humans. Shout out to John Smith. He's my forever dad. He talked about Jesus and, you know, once again, we learn this concept of like unconditional love and grace beyond, comprehension kind of thing. And he said, you know, Jesus isn't worried about people who are backsliding or who don't believe. Like, if he really is who he says he is, he's not sitting here concerned, biting his fingernails, hoping like that you're gonna hopefully choose his way. He's so, I don't think he's obsessed with those things. And we as Christians are. We're like, oh my God, Haley's leaving, or I haven't seen Jonathan at church in 2 weeks, or I haven't seen Billy, Billy was seen at the bar the other day. We should be concerned about him. And it's like, they just get consumed with the idea of saving and being the savior when they themselves, like, there is another savior that they believe.
I will never forget when I was a kid, I watched this movie. I can't remember the name of it, but I watched this movie. It was like a documentary. Maybe I was like 12 or 13. But I remember seeing it, and it was a part of it was talking about people who are a part of like the gay community.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And this guy was saying, God's not surprised by anything.
Yeah. It's so funny when people think think he's like human and he doesn't know anything.
I can't remember what analogy he used. I hope I remember it later. But it was such an eye-opening thing for me. And I remember like being like, holy crap, that makes more sense than anything I've ever heard. Hearing that God is never surprised by someone's outcome. Like, he doesn't look at a caterpillar. I think this is what it was. He doesn't look at a caterpillar, sees it turns into a butterfly, and goes...
Shit. He's like looking around like, yo, you'll see that?
I think that's what the analogy was. He doesn't see this caterpillar turn into a butterfly and go, how the fuck did that happen? Like, he already knows that that's its destiny. Yeah. And he, like, loves that it changes or whatever, or that it's different. I don't know.
This just made me think of when, once again, I learned from the most marvelous man, John Smith, that Jesus healed people that he knew weren't going to follow him. Like you said, he knows everything. He knew everything. He willingly did those things. He healed people. He transformed people. And then he left and went, I don't care if you follow me or not.
I honestly think that Jesus is a fantastic example.
I'm compelled by who I know he is to be, like quote unquote kind of thing, and who I know he is capable of being if the church didn't freaking ruin it for me.
And I think that was a huge part of why I left too, was because in our internship, we actually dove into the Bible and we dove into these beliefs and I was like, this isn't connecting for me. Like, these are two separate worlds in my mind, and why aren't they connecting? And so I think that's why, like, I've never left and been like, I'm an atheist. I think it's because I left and I was like, there's something beyond this life. There has to be more. There has to be more to this, but not in this way.
Just not like this.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's okay. Like, and I remember thinking too, like, well, I remember this one time I was a leader in our youth group and this kid came up to me like sobbing and he was like, my grandma just died and she did not believe in Jesus. What's going to happen? What's going to happen with her? And I was just like,
I'm sorry your grandma died. Like, leave it at that. I don't,
But at the time I believed like Jesus is the only way. But then that really like triggered me to think, wait, like, he's right. Like, why would his grandma not be able to get an afterlife? But he can, you know, like, it was just like, that really pushed me to think, why? And start to question things in an environment where I've always been scared to question things.
And I feel like the more I've questioned, the more I become more myself.
I have people who like who talk to me like recently, and even me just like having this podcast, like a lot of people are like, wow, I don't think I've ever known this side of you. And I think that I know that this, like, who I am right now is like my true self. Sure. And I've always known that this is my true self, but something was holding me back. Yeah. Let the light shine on me. Should we record a cover of that? I'm just kidding. I don't know what was holding me back that whole time. I don't know what was holding me back my whole life. I think maybe it was a lot of anxiety and stress came from church. And I think that I've like released a lot of that. Like, I used to have panic attacks often, starting from when I was like 11 years old. Like, I was very young. And I literally can't think of one time that I've had one since I've left the church. I'm like, I didn't even do anything to break that cycle.
Yes. Okay. Can I just say one thing I think I've learned the most, or I don't know, that's been just so amazing for me, is I was so full of shame and guilt when I was in the church world. I was always ashamed of who I was, what I did. And the moment I left, I shit you not, it like all went away. I felt like, if you want to take Jesus back into it, I felt like I discovered Jesus more so outside being loved unconditionally, like I was told he did.
I have never felt more
versus
spiritual.
Having someone looking over my shoulder being like, well, he loves you to an extent, and if you do that and we find out, it's not going to be okay, kind of thing. And so like, I have zero shame, I have zero guilt, like, ever, unless I like cut someone off and flip them off in traffic. But like, other than that, like,
something worthy of shame and guilt.
Obviously. So that's just, it's crazy how much more I and you are ourselves, truly, now that we've, moved on,
have left.
Speaking of panic attacks, let's segue into mental health. Yes. I think that's a great transition.
That is a great, I know, I thought of that. I was like, this is a great one.
I guess I so like you, struggled with mental health from a really young age. And I'd love to hear your story too, after this, but, or share whatever. You can just do whatever coming up. I don't know. And so, yeah, I just kind of dealt with that and tried to navigate that. I was extremely depressed in 7th grade. I think that's when I was 13. I was cutting myself. I wanted to literally die. Like, death was all I could genuinely think about. And like when I thought about my future, I could never like see anything. Like I stopped dreaming. It was awful. A 13-year-old too, which is so sad. And I had planned, like fully planned my death and like was ready to do it. And they finally, my mom put me in therapy. I've been in therapy since my parents got divorced. So like I was in therapy so young where she had like the colored faces and she would make me like color them in with crayons, and she'd be like, what is this? And I'm like, angry. And it was like a red face. And she's like, what do you feel today? And I'm like, I feel blue. And it was like sad. So really from day one, I've been going to therapy, but she obviously saw me kind of decline again and took me back. And
that's so good. Because a lot of people, they don't use therapy. Like it is such a good resource.
My mom she always said the preface of, it's okay to feel, it's okay to cry, please do it. Yes. I encourage it. Where my dad was very like, he would literally say, you cannot cry unless you're bleeding. Like that was a actual philosophy. So like I would have a stomach ache or whatever a 7-year-old wants to cry about, because they cry, and it would be shut up, like stop crying, quit crying, there's no reason to cry. And so that obviously translated into my adulthood of like any negative feeling I felt, I very much like gaslighted myself and policed my own emotion, was like, no, you can't feel sad, or you can't feel. Yes, exactly. And so once I was in therapy, I had kind of told the therapist that I did want to kill myself and commit suicide. And she was like, okay, because you are a minor, I do have to disclose that information to your mom because that is technically life-threatening. And so we pulled my mom into the office, and I will never forget the moment when she was like, I couldn't even tell her. I tried to tell her, and then I just started crying. And the therapist was like, Haley expressed to me that she no longer wants to live anymore. And my mom, who literally, like, I would not be alive if she was not my mom, but she just sat there and she cried and she held me. And she didn't say, like, what did I do wrong? She did ask, like, is there anything I could have done different? But it was very much just like, Haley, I couldn't not have you in my life. Like, I would be destroyed. And so she was the one thing. She always validated me. So it was like the one person that stopped me from leaving this earth. Like, I will forever say it, like, the reason I didn't die was because I loved my mom so much. I was selfish enough to, like, forget about everyone else. But for her, I was like, this woman is phenomenal and I cannot leave her. And she's we are literally all each other has. Like, it was just her and I. So, we got on medication after that and just tried to navigate, like, obviously the right medication that takes time. And then, funny story, but I quote unquote got saved and started following Jesus and completely cut my meds cold turkey. And that really was a bad idea for me. Oh my God. I was like getting like muscle spasms and like my body was like straight up freaking out and going into withdrawals. Yeah. And I literally went to someone and was like, can you pray for this to go away? Like medically, scientifically speaking, I'm shaking and I'm like, can you just pray over me? Please, I'm gonna die. Yes. And so I don't know what happened, but I guess I just tried to like suppress the fact that I did have depression at that point. And it was a very up and down roller coaster, so it'd be in waves. And once I finally left interns, I went through obviously several years of not being on medication. It really just all kind of went downhill. Like I said, once I transitioned out, it was like, who am I? What am I living for? All these different things. And I started realizing like difference, like it was depression, but it was different. It was, I started becoming agitated and angry, and I would get very angry very fast. And just like little things, like I couldn't be touched softly, which I still kind of have now, which I used to never have, but like the feeling of gentleness and nurturing sounds so awful. My skin wants to reject it. I don't know if it's a nerve thing or whatever, but so just kind of noticing those things. And my mom, we kept connected while I was in Chicago, and she was like, I'm really concerned about you. I think we need to go to a doctor and you need to come home. So I came home and then couldn't get my life together. And she was like, I think we need to admit you to a hospital. And I was like, I hate you, but I also know that you know me so well and that you can make the calls for me, because I always will trust her. And she finally, we went to the doctor and they were like, you have bipolar disorder, bipolar depression, essentially. So there's two, there's like manic bipolar, and then there's like manic depressive kind of thing. So there's one side of it is it's the bipolar that the movies kind of portray, I guess. You like the crazy, the talking fast, kind of like schizophrenic thoughts. I don't want to say crazy. That's an awful word to use. It's not within, I guess, within the, mental health community, but just the extreme, I think, idea of bipolar is kind of what people think of it as. Is like, when you say bipolar, what do you think about?
Someone being hot and cold, up and down, like extreme up, extreme down.
And for me, it was that, but it was more of on the depression side. So like it was, I'd be sad for 2 months or whatever, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't keep my hygiene or whatever, couldn't work, couldn't go to school. And then I would be okay. And then I would start getting angry and agitated. And that's when I would go down again. And finally realizing that, getting that diagnosis, feeling so ashamed. That was like the first time I felt ashamed since I had left the church, because of the stigma that is tied to that. And sometimes even still, it makes me cringe when I say I have bipolar, but I know that I am not bipolar. I have it. I'm Haley. I have it, but I'm not.
That's a great way to phrase it. No, words are so powerful in the way that you phrase things.
Yeah, just like you said, weight issues last week. You were like, it's not an issue. It's never been an issue. I have it. I'm not that, though. I'm Haley. And so that just started a journey of getting on the right medication and going to therapy all the time. And once I got kind of in the right frame of mind, that's when I decided to move back to Seattle, and here we are. And I'm still trying to navigate it, but
and of course, I mean, I still get anxiety, but I think it's in different forms. My anxiety came out in panic attacks. I think for a while, my parents just saw it as me throwing a fit. Of course, like, I mean, and
well, that's, I mean, for people who don't understand anxiety, it looks like that. It looks like you're being a hypochondriac, and
it looks like I'm being a brat. So I remember the first time I started having anxiety was I was put into school. So I don't know if you know this, but I was actually homeschooled for most of my life. Like, was homeschooled. I'm going to school for the first time, and I'm realizing that I'm really insecure, like extremely insecure, because
middle school's hard.
Middle school's hard. Also, it was my first time meeting people outside of my church environment. And then I was also like the same height and like pretty much the same weight that I am right now. Like I shot up and stopped growing, I think, when I was 13, but still, like, I was a 5'7" kid in middle school. And so I just felt like a freak. And a huge reason why I ended up having a hip injury was because I would like wear Spanx a lot. So I would like go to school. I'm in middle school wearing Spanx, like, and I didn't feel like I had cute clothes because I couldn't shop at Justice. Like I couldn't shop at any of those places because I was a middle schooler stuck in a woman's body. And so I think like that brought on a lot of anxiety, because I was like, okay, I'm in a brand new environment. Like I had just heard the F word from my best friend the first time. Like she was like, fuck. And I was like, what? I was like,
like your world
stopped. And I noticed a pattern. I was like, I had never heard the word fuck until I was in middle school. Never.
TV ever, anything?
Nothing.
Did you know it was bad, or were you just like, what's this word?
No, I literally didn't know it was the F word. I just straight up didn't know what the F word was. I don't know if I had ever heard it. And then I noticed a pattern where all of them kept saying fuck. And then I was like, is that the F word? Like I think I thought that it was like friggin' or something, like, or I just thought
you definitely thought it was, because parents who hear their kids say freaking, they're like, don't say that. So you just, it's the F word.
Just dumb shit like that was happening. And so I started having panic attacks because I was like, I don't know what to wear to school. And that's always what I would just say is, I don't know what to wear to school. And I think that's something I've learned at my job right now. Like I work with kids. Something that I learned is like how anxiety gets translated, right? Like anxiety when they're younger gets translated in a different way. So, kids, they'll say, my tummy hurts, but really that's anxiety.
Yes.
They just don't know how to express that. So I think when I was in middle school and even in high school, I would say, I don't know what to wear. Yeah. But really it was 100 other things behind that sentence. Yeah. And so I think, you know, I don't like blame my parents at all. Yeah. Like they weren't like awful to me or whatever, and they didn't realize what was actually going on. Sure. So to them, they were like, Maddie freaks out and is a brat just because she doesn't know what to wear. But really, I was like, there's actually a lot more going on, and I didn't even know how to process that. And that was like the first time I had dealt with anxiety, but I didn't really realize what it was until I had my hip surgery. And then afterwards, they diagnosed me with PTSD. And I don't even know if that's like very similar, because they just diagnosed me for the situation of my hip surgery and the trauma from that, if that makes sense.
Like the overall.
Yeah, so I don't feel as though I have that, because I feel like that comes from a lot bigger picture things.
Okay, are you gaslighting yourself because I feel like if you're saying I don't have it because it doesn't look the way people who get diagnosed with it.
I just don't feel like I have that.
Well, I feel like it's a form of, it's the word, I guess, for the manifestation of anxiety, because they do have the, you know, however it looks for anyone who has PTSD. I don't think it all comes in just one form.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
You have maybe that, and it brings anxiety into your life, kind of thing.
That's
so
true.
Don't gaslight yourself.
Okay.
I mean, maybe that wasn't the case, but I just wanted to call you out if it was.
Yeah, I guess that is what I think, or what I've thought before. But yeah, so they like diagnosed me with PTSD and like anxiety disorder. And so then I was at Children's Hospital, right? And my hip surgery was like major. Like I was in the hospital for a while. I was disabled for a whole year. And so I was basically, I had a team at Children's Hospital. Like, I'm not joking. Like,
you had a whole squad, a posse.
Yes. Like
you were like the Rihanna of Seattle Children's.
Yes. I would literally go to the doctor to meet with my team. Like, that's how it was. So I met with my team, and one of the people on my team was like my emotional health, which I think was like so good of Children's. Like,
thank you for doing that.
Props to them. Yeah. And so that was a huge part of it, because I was in a ton of pain. So they called it my pain management team. That's what it was. So I would go to pain management appointments, and I would meet with these 3 different people, and the 3 of them brought different aspects, which was really cool. Yeah.
That's how we're supposed to rehabilitate people. Jesus.
Yeah. It was an awesome thing. Like Children's Hospital is amazing. Yeah. So anyway, so one of them was like my emotional health. And that was the first time I had ever dealt with what I had previously, which was anxiety. And it was like, okay, now I understand. Now it's defined for me.
Someone put a word to it.
Yes. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I went through like a lot in that year, and understanding like how mental health does affect my body. Yeah. Like I was like, I'm in pain because of my mind. What's in your head affects everything. I think mental health, even though it's like never talked about, our system never brings that to the forefront of people's minds.
Like literally like 90% of Americans are affected by it, I guess. Everyone literally.
And it will affect your entire life if you don't address it.
Yeah. So it just makes me sad. People need to really listen to themselves and admit when something is wrong. Raise your hand, like, you know, yourself, like, raise your hand, ask for help, kind of thing. So I had the privilege to, I guess I should acknowledge that I had the privilege to raise my hand. Some people don't.
Haley, you were just telling me about this book that you're reading, and I thought that it was super interesting.
Her name is Glennon Doyle. She's amazing. Her book is called Untamed. One of my friends just got it for me, like surprised me with it, and literally read it in like, I take a long time to read, so I'm going to say a week, and that's impressive for me.
That is impressive. That's impressive to me.
I hate all those people that are like, oh, I read it in a day. I'm like, did you even gather anything from it? Like, I'm very much like taking notes and like trying to really absorb it all. So it honestly changed my life.
Tell us how that changed your life.
Tell us how it changed my life. So I guess a backstory on who Glennon Doyle is. She was previously known for being kind of a Christian speaker, you know, had a platform, I guess. That's what I could boil it down to. She had a platform within the Christian community. She was a wife, married, 3 kids. She had gone through marriage problems and a cheating ordeal kind of thing. And then she struggled with addiction with drugs. And so she got sober. And so she had been through this whole journey. Wow. And she thought she was content, but she always felt like she was held back. She was held back behind a fence, and that's where she kind of gets the untamed mentality of like, I got to step beyond the fence and really like go see more. But she was headed to a book conference, and they had a dinner the night before the conference for all the people, like the keynote speakers that were going to be there. And so she walked into this room and she started meeting everyone, and she noticed a woman walk into the room, and she could tell you exactly what she was wearing, like to a T kind of that day. And she said that the moment she saw her, she knew that that was who she loved. And it's like, oh, you're married, you have 3 children, you have a very big platform and influence in this world, and you're telling me you love a woman? Yeah. That woman happened to be a player on the U.S. women's national soccer team named Abby Wambach, which is so freaking dope. Yes. And so she had to go through this process of questioning the church, questioning why does the church believe that homosexuality is wrong? Why are we told that? Why do we believe it just blindly kind of thing? And really just question that, and decided that she had to, for once in her life, choose herself. So she got a divorce. The beautiful thing about that is the husband is the ex-husband is still very much involved. He actually plays soccer. So Abby and him play on the same like kind of adult soccer team. So there's it's all co-parenting. It's all the perfect way it should be done. But she had to navigate like leaving the church and being known as a Christian woman and falling in love with a woman. Yeah. And so reading her story and realizing, oh, she was allowed to do that. It was just a concept for me that I was always told that wasn't allowed. You know, growing up in the South, you're going to get married to a man, you're going to go to college, you're either going to become a nurse or an elementary school teacher. Even if you do make it out of college, like congrats, but you'll probably get knocked up at 22, maybe to a guy in the military. Like it's the lifestyle. And I remember at a young age always being like, this doesn't sound fun. I don't desire this.
True.
Why is this a thing? But I felt wrong for even thinking that. Like, it's the whole, like, suppressing the question. Like, I'm not allowed to even question or, you know, whatever with those things. And so once I guess, finally left the church and met more people within the LGBTQ community, I got to listen to them and start to really ask myself questions and be like, wait, I resonate with this. Wait, they have kind of a similar background as me, and they can do it. And so in the same sense of Glennon, like similar background, I felt like I could relate on a personal level, and she was able to come out of that situation and have the love of her life. I was like, wait, this is a thing. And so I think more recently I decided to give myself permission, which is so sad, but to question, permission to question. I was never given permission to do that. And I think finally giving myself that permission gave me the opportunity to finally include myself in the community. And that was so scary for me, because I was like, I was always taught to not be one of them because they're different. That's really what it boils down to, is they're different. And I found a beautiful website called churchclarity.com. Shout out to my lovely friends Mara and her future wife, Ashlyn. They've helped me really, they've been my Glennon Doyle in person. I guess that's what you could say. They created a safe space for me to question, to be myself, to not know, to also to really believe that love is possible. And not only that, but with 2 women. And I think always looking from the outside in, I was like, wow, 2 women actually had like beautiful love. Like technically speaking, women are hella cool and they're nurturing and they really do love big. And so when you have 2 of those together, it's like it's huge. It's you can't contain it kind of thing. And I think I'd always look at that and be like, wow, that's like really beautiful and magical and like unattainable for me, because I'm not allowed to do that. And now seeing them step outside the church and their whole story. Now they're engaged and they're getting married, and they've been together for like 4 years, and they couldn't come out for a long time because they were at a Christian college. And so they wrote each other like love letters, and they had to keep secret. So they have like over 300 love letters, but that just sweet. Also is another reason that women should love women, because we just do it better. Yes. But anyways, churchclarity.com, bitches. / I don't know.
Bitches / bitch. Get some church clarity. That should honestly be their motto. Just Haley going, bitch, get some church clarity.
Anyways, so it's an amazing website. I learned about it within the last year or so, and it essentially discloses churches, I'm assuming throughout the United States. I don't know worldwide. I think it's just essentially what it is you have this website. You can search any kind of church anywhere, and they disclose I guess the two top policies they talk about is their stance within the LGBTQ community, or their stance on women within the church, which is just like so funny that we even have to have a website
for both of those.
Literally, like, does that not say anything in and of itself?
Yeah. I was actually scrolling through some of those because I was curious, and like nearly every church is undisclosed in both areas.
Yeah. I will say this. You look at the website and you go, disclosed or non-disclosed, and you go, oh, that's cool that they've disclosed this information, and it shows where they stand, because clarity is reasonable. That's what Mara and Ashlyn taught me. Wow. Clarity is reasonable. It's a reasonable thing to just have clarity. I just need to know where you stand so I can have my boundaries, but I just need to know. Just clarity. I at least deserve that. That's statement. The bare minimum. Yeah. And so when you see undisclosed, it's a stab in the heart, because you're like, it's the ambiguity once again. It's like, we're not going to say anything, so we can just avoid it, and then no one has to. Yeah. I think it boils down to visibility. You know, it's like, I see you. I acknowledge you. You are visible to me. Ambiguity is dangerous. It's hurtful. Clarity is reasonable. Just let me know where you stand.
Okay, Haley, who are your close friends of the week?
Hey, so first, I obviously had mentioned earlier Glennon Doyle and her wife, Abby Wambach. They're the two women that I said that fell in love and got married and dismantled everything within the church. They're amazing to follow. They also just founded the first U.S. women's national soccer team, like women-owned, which is so cool. On from that, my second close friend would be India Moore. She is a actress on the show Pose. I don't know if you've heard about Pose. I haven't. It's a great show. It essentially showcases like the ballroom era and how that was started in Harlem with the Black queer community. It's essentially like where voguing began, and essentially drag and kind of all those things. She's an actress on that, and so she talks a lot about trans lives and is a big advocate for that as well. And then Laura Hesp, she's literally one of my all-time favorites. She's a huge body advocate, empowerment girl. She has both bipolar and borderline personality disorder, and she just is awesome and loves talking about her tattoos and her boob job that she needed to get removed and all the things, just taboo topics that tell women that they shouldn't talk about. Those are my people. Those are my close friends that I, think you should check out.
Thank you so much for coming on. It was so fun having you.
I'm so glad I took my retainers out to talk.
Glad that you came on, and I'm sure that I'll have you on again, because we just both love to not shut up. And that's what I need. I need someone to come on here just to talk a little bit. So I have a short break.
I need someone to listen to me. So here we are.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Close Friends List podcast. These episodes go live every single Friday. You can look for them on all major podcasting platforms and